Ma'am, were you crying when you were shooting him?
I don't remember.
Were you crying when you were stabbing him?
I don't remember.
How about when you cut his throat? Were you crying then?
I don't know.
Hello and welcome to I Could Murder, a podcast. We are back once again with a brand new case, a very interesting one. We are looking forward to sharing with you and getting your opinions on it as well. I'm joined by a very cheeky chappy, producer Dan. How you doing?
I'm very cheeky. I'm always cheeky. I like being cheeky.
You are.
It makes the day go faster. I'm very good. The sun is shining yet again, so I'm feeling bright. Very eager to jump into today's case. It makes me shudder. It really makes me shudder. But I can talk about that more later. Ben, how are you?
Hello, boys. Doing very well, thank you. Much like producer Dan, the sun is shining, which always makes me happy. But also, like producer Dan, shudder. Very much
Get
the
your own
theme.
things.
Okay.
Come on. I ain't got all day.
Dread. This case filled me with dread. I saw some particularly, perhaps,
Judge Dredd, isn't it?
Yes. I saw recently, in doing the research for this case, a harrowing series of crime scene photographs that have disturbed me to my core. So dread and core, dreadcore, could be a nice genre of perhaps music.
Perhaps.
Could perhaps be a nice concept for music. But yes, we are back again. I want to say a big hello to anyone who's subscribed over on YouTube. We've had a nice little influx of people, so welcome. And if you haven't, why not consider giving us a cheeky little subscribe? We very much appreciate it. And we've had some lovely comments over the last 2 episodes, which we really do appreciate. Not easy cases to cover, but yeah, we're it's always lovely to see you guys are enjoying the content and saying, our stupid little humour makes it a little bit more palatable. It's very much appreciated. I'm looking forward to sharing a new case with you this week.
Absolutely. We're down to the final 4. Is this final 4 today?
It's the
Audience
final 4. Yep.
That could be dreadcore. That could be dreadcore.
Yeah.
But final 4 episodes of the series, including the audience vote. Next week is a case that people have been requesting for years, and we've got an interesting finale up our sleeve and a little peek behind the curtain. I wanted to test the waters here. Today's case, Tom and Dan, we were actually going to cover the Vince McMahon case, but we felt that as all information isn't readily available about the case, we went with this case instead. And I wanted to see what people's feelings were with regards to us potentially covering Vince McMahon. Basically, we felt there's still a lot of information to come out about that one, and also maybe only a certain section of our audience would really appreciate that case. So just love to get some feedback on perhaps us covering that in future series.
Yeah, that's exactly where I sit on it. I think it'd be interesting to see, because I think it's a lot more wrestling fans be interested and other people might not be. So it'd be interesting to see what you guys think, and let us know as well when you comment in if you are a wrestling fan or not, and if it does interest you in any way, it'd be very helpful for us to know. But Ben, what is today's case?
So this week, episode 9 of series 11, it is the case of Jodi Arias, also referred to as the murder of Travis Alexander, the If I Can't Have You case, the murder in the shower, a love story turned deadly, a killer caught on camera, Love, Lies and Lust, the case of Jodi and Travis. And we forgot about the cryptic clue segment last week. Sorry about that.
You had to shoot that at midnight, didn't you?
Oh man, had to really, burn the midnight oil there.
Was it actually midnight? That's mad.
It's getting pretty close to midnight. I think it was dark outside.
When would you round up, Dan? If it's around, when would you say? What would your cut-off point be?
Probably 11:51.
Okay,
about that, yeah. Late at night, long after the shoot. 57, 9.
Oh.
But probably a reflection of that late hour is that the cryptic clue was, Clarice is breathing heavy. Clarice, Silence of the Lambs, Jodie Foster, Jodi, breathing heavy, Arias, Jodi Arias.
So I'm being stupid. What's breathing heavy? Arias?
Yeah.
Sort of Arias. Oh, that's a bit
my god!
Arias.
So it's not. It doesn't. It's not. Fucking hell! What? Okay.
If someone out there got
Is that
it,
a word for breathing heavy or something? Or like,
in probably Harry Potter world, yeah. Arias.
Can't just blame it on Harry Potter, mate.
Well,
Come on.
if someone got it, we'll check because we're filming this ahead of.
Wouldn't you go for Aries or something like that? Like the actual stuff, like
For Arias
that'd
was
be a bit
more
closer.
intriguing and cryptic.
amazing. Oh, so proud of you, man.
That's probably the worst one.
Probably, yeah. It was late, wasn't it? Late.
You'd already written it and you just didn't do it. But
No,
then you
no,
did it at
no, it was the other one.
9:30, you did it, and it was that.
Whole
So-
thing forgotten.
Anyway, so there you go. Sorry about that. And if you did get it, maybe go talk to someone if you did get it. But anyway, let's get into this week's case. Fucking hell, Arias.
June 9th, 2008. The city of Mesa, Arizona. On what was a particularly hot and humid summer's day in the desert community of Mesa, Arizona, a young Mormon woman by the name of Mimi Hall stared anxiously at her suitcases as a wave of panic began to wash over her. Mimi was due to be flying to Cancun the following morning for an all-expenses-paid vacation. However, she had not seen or heard from her travel partner, 30-year-old Travis Alexander, in almost a week. This was completely unlike Travis, the very well-liked, talkative, confident and sociable motivational speaker she had met through church. Mimi's panic escalated to a sense of dread, and so she and some of Travis's friends headed over to his home. Upon arrival, the group were met by one of Travis's roommates, who also hadn't heard from him in several days and mistakenly believed that Travis was already away in Cancun. The group grab a spare key to Travis's room and quickly make their way upstairs towards it. As multiple different voices desperately call out to Travis's name, a sudden silence fills the scene the moment the door is opened. Several pools of blood are observed soaked into the bedroom carpet and around the hallway floor. The profuse smell of decay is overwhelming, and the eerie silence remains. The group then enter the master bathroom and are met with a sight that would haunt each of them for the rest of their lives. Blood was spilled over the sink and splattered onto the walls, and Travis's badly decomposed body laid motionless on the shower floor in a pool of his own blood. His throat completely slit, his body battered and bruised, with dozens of stab wounds to his chest, back, hands and neck, and a gunshot wound to the head. Whoever had murdered Travis had done so in the most callously brutal and barbaric of fashions. He had been completely mutilated in a completely savage manner. In the hours that followed, when asked who could possibly have been angry enough to hurt him in such a violent way, to butcher him in fact, immediately the name of one person left the collective lips of the entire group: his ex-girlfriend, 27-year-old Jodi Arias. Arias.
I think it's Arias.
To make his clue work, you have to say Arias.
27-year-old Jodi Arias.
How did Jodi very suddenly go from a seemingly ordinary woman to a violent, senseless murderer? What was the true nature of Jodi and Travis's relationship? Was it love, was it lust, or was it a toxic obsession? Why did Jodi keep changing her story so dramatically, first denying any involvement, then blaming intruders, and then claiming self-defense? And when specifically did Jodi start making plans to murder her ex-boyfriend and attempt to outsmart law enforcement, the legal system, and the general public in the process?
So we're going to begin with some background to both Jodi and Travis before looking at how they came to meet and evolve into their highly scrutinised and eventually fatal relationship.
Jodi Arias was born on Wednesday, the 9th of July 1980, at approximately 6 minutes to midnight in the city of Salinas, California, where, of course, the city motto is rich in land, rich in values. And if that didn't quite quench your thirst for Salinas-based facts, Salinas is also referred to as the salad bowl of the world. Lovely place by the sounds of it. Lots of lovely locations in this case. And it's called the salad bowl of the world as a result of its large, vibrant agricultural industry.
I love a salad bowl, by the way. Big fan of a salad bowl.
Oh,
Any sort of salad. Get in me.
I probably need to do a few more of them, to be fair. Usually give them a pass.
Are we talking about homemade salads? Or Dan, would you order a salad if you're at a restaurant?
Either, yeah, or even out in a supermarket. I get drawn to the salads. Love a bit of couscous, love a bit of, what's that pasta? That's not pasta. That looks like, oh, I've forgotten now.
Pasta isn't pasta, it looks like pasta.
What is it?
Quinoa?
Doesn't matter. No.
Quinoa?
Quinoa could be.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. No, I'm a big fan of any sort of salad. It just makes me feel nice, and it's tasty, always tasty.
Tell you where I do like them. If I do go to a place where there's a salad bar, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Pizza Hut buffet.
Pizza Hut.
Yeah, like an all-you-can-eat buffet with a salad bar. Yeah, lovely.
Crunchy bacon bits on it, loads of sauce.
Yeah,
and
yeah, dressing.
dressing. Gotta get the dressing.
So Jodi was the eldest of 4 children born to William Bill Arias and Sandra Sandy Allen, having 2 younger brothers called Joey and Carl, as well as a younger sister called Angela Susan, who on some websites has been described as looking like Jodi's younger twin. Throughout Jodi's later trial, she would regularly paint the picture of an almost nightmare-like childhood, which suggested routine mistreatment from both of her parents, including being violently assaulted by her own father, as well as repeatedly physically abused and neglected by her mother. As you'll see, very much a theme within this case. There are many different stories that recall many different details of Jodi's life. Her childhood in particular has been recalled by many different perspectives. She will change her story very much over time, and these claims that her parents abused her would later be argued and stated as outright lies and her fantasy of a rotten childhood by her siblings and her parents. And this would stem from various mental health and personality conditions that she had developed and was currently experiencing. And with regards to this, the majority of the public, based on a lengthy list of other lies, which we will get into, the public generally tend to side with these being untrue statements, but we're going to share these statements with you regardless. Otherwise, Jodi's childhood has been described as almost ideal. On her mother's alleged actions, Jodi would state the following.
Orzo.
Oh.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is that a pasta?
Yeah, I
or is that a...
Yeah. It's what the kind of looks like rice, but it's
Yeah, it's kind of pastry
Yeah.
rice in the mid
Yeah,
in
yeah,
between. Yeah, anyway.
it's nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, my mum began to carry a wooden spoon in her purse. This is the right one, yeah?
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
quite a nice transition from orzo into beating with a spoon.
Danny, maybe you should do that to get the next time you have an Uzo. Better than plastic, isn't it? A little wooden spoon at your purse.
Well, my mum began to carry a wooden spoon in her purse, and wherever we were, whether it was home or out somewhere, if me and my siblings were misbehaving, she would pull it out and whack us with it. Wherever we were, she would hit us pretty hard.
I've got a friend whose mum used to hit them with a wooden spoon, or it was a spoon. I'm not sure if it's wooden spoon. It was a spoon. And then apparently when they grew up when they're a bit older, they used it as a kind of decoration on the wall. And
As
it
a
was kind of
reminder.
like, I just don't know if it was as a reminder, but it's kind of like, that's a bit interesting.
How is your friend doing?
Yeah. It's getting there.
Getting there.
Also, isn't a wooden spoon quite large for a purse? Or am I thinking of maybe a handbag rather than a small purse, like a coin purse, for example? It's
I don't think it's
irrelevant
a coin
detail,
purse.
isn't it?
Don't think it's a coin purse, mate. Probably going to be just a handbag.
Unless it's
Handbag,
magic.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Dan, forgot that. Maybe it would be magic. And
Thank you.
Mary Poppins as a mum.
So that was the allegation against the mother, and on her father's alleged actions, Jodi would state the following.
It seemed like, at age 7, around then, it started getting a little bit more intense. I think that's the first year my dad started using a belt. He didn't leave bruises as often as my mum. He didn't need to. He was already very intimidating. In my teenage years, that's when he got rougher. He would shove me into furniture. A piano, a desk. One time, the side of my face hit a doorpost and knocked me out. I remember waking up and my mother was telling him to be careful.
So whether you believe Jodi or not is completely up to you, but what is known for a fact is that she and her siblings had an otherwise uneventful, normal, happy and healthy childhood. Jodi attended local schools in Salinas before going on to attend Eureka Union High School. Here, Jodi made the decision to drop out of the 11th grade, where she was 16 years old, in order to pursue a dream career in photography. As well as this, not long after leaving high school, Jodi engaged in relationships with various men while taking on temporary waitressing jobs. She was diligent in her work, and much like Travis Alexander, as we'll go on to discuss, she aspired to build a better future for herself. However, the big difference between these two people was that Jodi was looking to better her life by finding a solid romantic partnership, whereas Travis would aim to better his life by boosting his income. More on this shortly. At the age of 17, Jodi left her home during a typical phase of teenage rebellion. They briefly lived with a boyfriend almost twice her age, a divorcee who had a son from a previous relationship. The pair were together for a little over a year, and their contact with her parents slowly dwindled during this time, but the relationship eventually failed, and Jodi would start working and living in different cities around California, whilst also trying to find love and make it as a photographer. One of her childhood best friends, Patty Womack, recalled the following about their early life and teenage years together.
Growing up with Jodi, it was a good childhood. She was a sweet girl. She was the kind of girl that you always wanted to be around. She was fun. She always had a smile on her face. She was just the sweetest thing and a great friend to have. She offered to take my wedding photos for free. Hearing her admit to what she would later do was the hardest day of my life. I just don't know where it all went wrong.
Initially, Jodi seemed to do quite well as a freelance photographer. However, as the work slowly dried up, she had to take on a series of odd jobs over the next decade or so in order to supplement her income. Towards the end of that decade, Jodi dyed her hair blonde and seemed to approach her career and romantic aspirations with a different energy. She started reading personal development books. She started looking online at other people's success stories. She then heavily researched and went on to take a sales associate position with a multi-level marketing company called PPL, Prepaid Legal Services, now known as Legal Shield.
Few comments online saying that they changed the company's name because of this case. I don't know. Could have just been a coincidence. Legal Shield.
Well, you fucked it for them there, Ben, because you've told them what this is now.
Oh, rats.
You have to change it again.
Oh,
Legal Camo.
that's nice.
Defense you can't see coming. That's not good, is it? Defense? You don't see what angle we're going to... I don't even know. But there you go. She did this in February of 2006 at the age of 25 and moved into a place of her own in the city of Palm Desert, California.
Which
apparently looks bloody lovely, by the way.
Thought so.
Thank you. It does. Looks remarkable.
Not my opinion. The opinion of Ben Carter. I'm going to look at it myself and I'll give my opinion.
Sure. I only looked at one photo.
Okay, so you can't really...
It was a brief opinion, but one that I hold dear. He's trying to find a bad street, isn't he?
No, I'm just looking at it. It looks all right. So it looks like
all right.
Look at that. Dan, you'll like it. Mountains.
Mountains, Dan.
And a
I'm a big
giraffe.
fan of a mountain, so bloody lovely.
Oh, there's a Denny's. That's all.
Oh, it's near
Ben likes
Coachella. Is that right? A golf course, Tom?
Coachella.
Oh, it's got everything. Coachella.
Coachella Mountains, Denny's.
Giraffe.
Let's go as a company together.
Anyway, 7 months later, in September of 2006, a 26-year-old Jodi attended a work conference in Las Vegas. Here, she first laid eyes on a 29-year-old Travis Alexander, an individual who also worked for PPL as a salesperson and motivational speaker, but in a different region. The pair were immediately attracted to one another and exchanged contact details. Contact details, so formal. Just exchange numbers.
It was a conference, though. So
Fair
they had
enough.
to exchange contact details formally. Maybe a card.
Sorry, you look really cute. Can we exchange contact details?
Jodi was instantly captivated by the very charismatic and charming speaker, so much so that within just a few weeks of meeting Travis, she read the Book of Mormon and converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormon Church, of which Travis was a practicing member.
So that's a big infatuation, isn't it, to convert so quickly, read a big book,
Yeah.
head over heels.
Must have been some PowerPoint that Travis did for her to convert that quickly. Yeah, within a few weeks, it's odd. That's odd behaviour.
So deep was this infatuation that 10 weeks after first meeting him, Jodi opted to be baptised by Travis himself in a ceremony that was held in rural Southern California. There is an in-session pool camera photo of the pair shortly before Jodi was baptised into the church. From this moment onwards, the pair would speak on the phone almost every day and exchange contact... Oh, fuck's me, that was in my head. God, Jesus Christ. And exchange at least 82,000 emails with one another. So, who is this man that Jodi had so suddenly become completely smitten with?
82,000 emails. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking. Check the date there. So 2006. So yeah, phones, text, 16. So probably then
MySpace.
That was the time of like you get paid per text, don't you? So 82,000 texts would be a lot of money. But yeah, wow, it's
Smart to move it to email then.
yeah, probably is to be fair. Oh, just got an MSN.
Yes, great times.
Cheeky little nudge.
But that is, yeah. I mean, obviously, a big part of her life story is, or her early life story is that she was looking for love, looking for someone to share her life with, and she was looking for, it sounded like a successful, future-orientated person, and that was very much who she found with Travis. I just think, yeah, that's incredibly like changing or I don't know how highly religious she was before meeting him, but like changing your entire belief system and religion based on a person you met. And I mean, I found some of his comedy shows and his public speaking. He is a very good public speaker, but yeah, It's an interesting situation here.
Travis Victor Alexander was born on the 28th of July 1977 in the city of Riverside, California, which apparently also looks bloody lovely.
No, not again.
It is, honestly. I reckon I could be a travel agent.
I don't know. You don't use much descriptive language other than bloody lovely.
Bloody lovely, yeah.
Fantastic.
What other word could you use
like
there?
the Blue Man van.
That is bloody lovely.
That's bloody lovely.
Yeah.
What else could I say?
Similar
Which
people.
looks
Serene, peaceful.
yeah, really kind to the eyes.
Maybe you could try it out for a bit. Maybe see how it goes.
Cool.
With the exception of 19 days, he was 3 years older than Jodi. Travis was one of 8 children born to Gary David and Pamela Elizabeth Morgan Alexander, who have been described as a carefree and poverty-stricken couple of the liberal hippie generation. His life was described as an absolute success story, going from rags to riches almost entirely by himself, against a great number of odds. Growing up in a very poor and unsupportive environment, Travis's parents opted away from what would be deemed as traditional or mainstream values, responsibility, and structure in favour of a lifestyle that was mostly based around music, partying, marijuana, alcohol, and various other illicit substances. Sounds great, actually. No.
I was trying to think of some famous hippie parents, like either in cartoons or TV shows, but I couldn't find any. There's an episode of Dexter's Laboratory where the parents go a bit hippie, but I thought that'd be a really niche reference.
Ned Flanders.
Yeah. He's still kind of by the book, though, isn't he? A little bit.
Yeah, just hippie parents was all I had.
Famous hippie parents. Did Shaggy from Scooby-Doo ever have kids? He's not really much of a hippie either, just like on munchies.
As the couple gradually delved into more potent drugs, however, their irresponsibility escalated, leading to their young children taking on greater responsibilities, including managing the very little canned food supplies available in the family home, and helping to raise the babies and younger children in the household.
As a youngster, Travis started to rebel and would often get into fights with other children at school and in his neighbourhood. Amidst his growing anger, he claimed that he started to reflect on his faith and started praying for a better existence, one that would allow him and his brothers and sisters to escape the abusive and reckless environment that had been created by his parents. His prayers were eventually answered when his grandmother, Norma Jean Preston Alexander Sarvey, for short, a devoted member of the Mormon Church, intervened. She made the decision to take Travis into her home, providing him with the support, love, structure, and guidance he so desperately needed. With his grandmother's care, the troubles of his early life soon faded away as she instilled in him the traditional values essential for his development. Travis adored his grandparents and absolutely idolized his grandmother. Under their roof, he discovered self-worth, direction, friendships, and a sense of security within the Mormon Church, leading him to aspire to achieve great success in adulthood. He began to envision a future beyond merely trying to survive, nurturing dreams, or marrying a kind-hearted woman and raising a family in a safe, wholesome, loving environment. An experience that was significantly different from his own upbringing. Shortly before Travis's 10th birthday, news was shared with him that his father had unexpectedly passed away. As a result, his 7 siblings were also taken into the care of his grandparents, and they also took on the values and sense of kindness and community that the church radiated. Travis would regularly go on missions with other Mormon friends, feeling motivated to save others, just as his grandmother had saved him. He felt a deep sense of gratitude and emotion towards her for rescuing him and his siblings from a difficult life. As a result of this, Travis went on to do well at school and was very successful in his career in sales, buying himself a brand new BMW, an attractive 5-bedroom home in Arizona, and being able to travel on a regular basis in his adult life. In his spare time and whilst working as a motivational speaker, he also made the very Michael Scott move of performing stand-up comedy routines at work using the character Eddie Snell. A mullet-donning, vest-wearing, NASCAR and WWE-obsessed sales expert from Alabama. And yeah, we'll play a little bit of that for you now.
Number 5, long-distance relationships. In this business, you have an excellent opportunity to, travel, see crowds. And you go to different places, it's good to have an old lady in every spot. Hey, redhead, stand up. You're next, baby. What's your name, girl? Brandy. Rhymes with candy. You are sweet. I love tall women, like jungle gyms.
So yeah, I mean, I've seen pictures of him doing his motivational speaking, but this one where Eddie Snell comes out, it seems to be at a work conference still. And I'm convinced that he was so successful in his job that he was one of the top executives there, that they saw how good he was at speaking and they said, look, you can do what you want. And so he went with Eddie Snell. And he is good. He's really good. I mean, the jokes are a little bit dated, but interesting all the same. He's quite bawdy for a Mormon.
Just want to do fart noise in his mouth. But yeah, yes, an interesting one. Good name.
Eddie Snell.
Good
yeah,
name.
very good. So as you might have gathered, Travis was an extremely popular person with his friends, family and colleagues. Everybody warmed to him as soon as they met him and regarded him as incredibly funny, but also incredibly kind and caring. Always willing to give everybody the time of day, regardless of what was going on in his own personal or professional life. He quickly worked his way up the ranks at PPL, becoming one of their top executives, winning over many hundreds of clients and customers along the way. Travis was living his dream, and everybody could tell. It was this magnetic element of his personality and aura that seemed to attract Jodi Arias. We return to February of 2007, 5 months after the pair had first met, and by this point, Jodi has converted to Mormonism. They've sent 80-odd thousand emails to one another. They are very much infatuated with one another. And at this point, Travis and Jodi officially started dating. And yeah, the word officially is kind of used in broad terms here, as the long-distance relationship has been described as convenient and casual with a pretty girl as far as Travis was concerned, whilst Jodi had fallen head over heels and was to a certain extent completely obsessed with Travis, who she now viewed as the man of her dreams. He's described as a bit of I think the word I've seen a lot of times is a bit of a player, a bit of a playboy. He had lots of different kind of casual relationships whilst also on the search for a future wife. And he had, I guess, towards his last few years, he was then looking for more of a serious relationship than what he had found so far. But with Jodi, the vibe you get is that he was very much wanting to keep that a casual relationship, and maybe even the fact that she lived so far away kind of helped that happen. So it is possible that Travis expected the distance of the relationship to become a factor, and perhaps that the relationship would fizzle as a result. However, Jodi would regularly spend thousands of dollars on fuel in order to make the 700-mile or 11-hour round trip between Palm Desert, California and Mesa, Arizona. Travis was said to have appreciated the lustful elements of the relationship as well as the casual sex, whilst Jodi was far more invested. So to help with the distance, Travis's boss, a man by the name of Chris Hughes, or a senior member of the staff there, allowed Jodi and Travis to start using their home in the city of Murrieta, California, which I am just going to double check the pronunciation of.
It probably looks bloody lovely.
I imagine it's really nice in your eyes.
It doesn't look as nice as the last two, Riverside and
that is damning.
Palm Desert. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry if you come from there.
Sorry about that. Murrieta, California. And that's Google's way of pronouncing Murrieta. So I know Google done us over, didn't it, for one of the Scottish Aviemore.
Right?
Yeah. But anyway, this house was offered up as kind of a midway point for the couple to meet. However, Travis would, instead of meeting halfway, he would regularly opt for Jodi to travel to him instead. She would often turn up to his house completely unannounced, many times whilst he was hosting UFC viewing parties, which apparently she had already been made aware of on that particular night. The boys are coming over, we're watching UFC. And over this period of time, his patience seemed to be slowly running thin on the relationship. Jodi would also turn up on numerous occasions in the middle of the night, eventually becoming a bizarre routine. According to his friends, Travis was too polite to ask her to leave, and so he would allow her to stay on these occasions. But she started to display other behaviours that became more concerning to them over the following months.
Yeah, rocking up unannounced is not cool. Not cool.
No. It's very healthy to have, your boys' nights or away from your partner, social time. I always find it odd when couples have to be with each other every single moment of every single day and every event.
I also think because how far away? 700 miles away is like, that's kind of a big deal to be doing that and rocking up unannounced.
Yeah.
Well, that's 350 miles away, 700 mile round trip. So yeah, it's not something you could do regularly without burning through your petrol money and your partner's patience. Tolerance.
Meanwhile, some of Travis's close friends quickly picked up on some of Jodi's concerning attitudes and behaviours. They would describe Jodi's mood swings as worrying, and they would note that the couple had a highly tumultuous relationship, explaining that there would be almost nothing that the pair wouldn't argue about. It slowly became clear that Jodi was expecting an eventual proposal, whilst Travis started looking for a way out of the relationship.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on here. A lady by the name of Sky Hughes, who was also Mormon and the wife of Travis's boss or colleague, Chris Hughes, got quite close to Jodi over the time that they were dating, and she made a few observations where Jodi would come to her and say, look, we're having casual sex and he's not going to propose to me. And Sky, being Mormon, absolutely scolded Travis for not going official, referring to chastity and everything like that. And also she observed Jodi shouting at Sky they were basically at a work conference, and this man was apparently following Jodi, trying to flirt with her. And she asked Sky to help her. Sky turned around and said, she has a boyfriend. And Jodi apparently had a go at her for saying, no, you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say, she's Travis Alexander's girlfriend. Because everyone knew who Travis was. So she was annoyed about that. Then she also once admitted to Sky that she had been reading or hacking into Travis's email. So Sky went from really approving of Jodi and in fact scolding Travis for not going official with her, to then being like, okay, she's one to look out for.
Many red flags.
Sky Hughes recalled the following about Jodi.
I started seeing things that were just disturbing. I said, Travis, I'm afraid we're going to find you chopped up in the freezer. From very early on, she was completely obsessed with him. She would follow him to the bathroom. She would eavesdrop on every conversation. She would constantly try to be way too physically intimate with him in front of everybody, and he would ask her to stop. Don't like it.
Not like it.
At the end of June 2007, after just 4.5 months of dating, it is believed that Travis and Jodi broke up, and that this was predominantly Travis's decision. Travis wrote to Jodi on Facebook, I was nothing more than a dildo with a heartbeat for you. Anything to say? No?
I mean, you probably can get that nowadays.
Yeah.
A throbbing heartbeat.
They're loving it.
Yeah, they are.
Despite the breakup and that particular message, they maintained a physical relationship with one another, which suited Travis far more than it did Jodi. It is also reported that Jodi started renting an apartment in Mesa, Arizona, just 2 blocks away from Travis, shortly after and despite the breakup, in order to be closer to him. But her being closer to him seemed to inadvertently push him further away from her. Jodi made several claims that she had become suicidal because of Travis. During the time that they were separated, Jodi would still follow Travis around at different sales conventions, and it is believed that Jodi would still often scout out Travis's home in order to see if other women were visiting him. On 2 occasions, it is alleged that Jodi slashed Travis's car tyres because she had seen another woman in his home. It is also alleged that Jodi sent numerous anonymous threatening emails to both Travis and this woman signed John Doe, and that she also regularly hacked into Travis's Facebook account and emails. Multiple friends and Travis himself described Jodi at this point to be behaving like a crazy stalker ex.
Crazy stalker ex. Yeah, she's able to hack things quite easily.
Good, very good hacker.
Unless it's just the case of she just knew his password, which I guess is maybe... Is that still hacking if you just know someone's password? Sounds so much more glamorous, doesn't it?
It does. I don't know.
Probably is still a form of hacking, but not that. Yeah.
Eddie Snell, 69. So at this point, Travis and his friends very much viewing her behaviour as strange and a little bit concerning, but I don't think anybody could foresee what was going to happen. And I think that's what makes, obviously, this case particularly fascinating to people.
Over the following months, Jodi's emotional and mental well-being began to decline, as she witnessed Travis effortlessly winning the admiration of everyone at Legal Shield, formerly known as PPL. He continued to radiate confidence, charisma and charm, which Jodi found bizarre, as she believed he should be as heartbroken as she was about their breakup. But yeah, he's just radiating still.
It's just absolutely radiating, killing it with the performances and characters and motivation, and probably making a few sales along the way. And
Snell in a cell.
yes, absolutely.
Because he's selling as
Going
well.
steady as Eddie. Eddie
Yeah,
Snell.
but Hell in a Cell is more of a pun, and
Yeah, definitely.
it made
He
it
was
work.
doing well.
Snell in a cell. But yeah, it became increasingly clear to her that numerous women at Legal Shield were drawn to him. Jodi often felt a stir and a discomfort in her gut whenever Travis engaged with groups, particularly if, in Jodi's eyes, several attractive young women were present following his speeches. Yeah, I mean, his speeches must be pretty damn good if it's getting everyone all juiced up watching him.
Electric speaker.
One woman who seemed to attract an excessive amount of Travis's attention was a lady by the name of Clancy Talbot, which is a cracking name. I can imagine working at a diner. Yes, Clancy, I'll have another black coffee, please.
Yeah.
Clancy,
Spot on.
I'm trying to have a meeting. The hash browns. Although Clancy was happily married and over a decade older than Travis, Jodi observed her, affectionately resting her head on his shoulder, while he casually wrapped his arm around her waist during a light-hearted moment. Overwhelmed by this sight, Jodi rushed to the restroom and started to cry, uncontrollably. Jodi then tried to compose herself before confronting Clancy with the following outburst. Travis and I are still a couple. I'm more mad at him than I am with you, but I want you to know that we are together again, now.
I thought you were going to do a voice as well.
What was a voice?
It was kind of a
sorry.
voice. Very slight.
I'm not going to do an American voice. Travis and I are still a couple. Travis and I are still a couple. I'm more mad at him than I am with you, but I want you to know that we're together again now. It's like comma. Again. Now.
I don't see. That's the thing, that her resting her head on his shoulder while he wrapped his arm around her waist, that could literally be a hug from the side after
Yeah,
he told a
side
bit of a zinger. Yeah, pull her in, head on chest, laughing at his zinger, or really great motivational speech. That's not something to run to the toilets.
How close was his shoulder to his crotch, though? Could have been like a pretzel.
That's true. Yes,
So
infamous pretzel leaning.
yeah, exactly. So I'm just
I
saying,
don't know the logistics of that head on the shoulder, but that to me is like a little, side hug. Nothing too wild about
I've
that.
seen you do some creepy side hugs in my time, boy.
Thank you very much.
Very creepy, and people are trying to move away, and it gets a bit weird. And I'm like, Ben, should we go home? And you're like, no, I'm just going to drive. I don't drive. Get your taxi. Put you at the back of a moped and just watch you go.
That happened, that last part.
Even when Travis entered a new relationship in December of 2007, he and Jodi continued to sext one another and allegedly continued to maintain a physical relationship. By this point, Jodi had exhausted all of her financial resources, probably in petrol, placing her hopes entirely on winning over Travis permanently. Believing she was on the verge of achieving this, she continued a casual fling with Travis and resolved not to give up. On top of this, as Travis had indicated his strong sexual appetite, Jodi realised that this was possibly a final chance or method to secure the affection of the man she adored. She was now prepared to fully embrace the role of fulfilling Travis's fantasies. Jodi had learnt through different magazines that, quote, men are often completely captivated by women who excel in bed, sometimes choosing to marry those who ignite their sexual passion over those with whom they share an emotional connection with. As a result, she went all out, dressing provocatively, engaging in suggestive conversation, and encouraging Travis to treat her however he pleased. Although Travis welcomed Jodi in his life in a sexual capacity, he made it clear that, eventually, he intended to marry someone else. Which, I can see why that would... I mean, if he was clear about that the whole time, then that's, people were clear about their intentions. But it seems to me like with this relationship, it'd be, not at all victim blaming at all in this, but, you can know that she's madly infatuated with him, with how she's behaved, and him continuing a sexual relationship with her, it's probably not helping the confrontation there.
So there are some we'll put a load of links to our references in the Facebook group, but there's like a breakdown of text, and I'm not going through 80,000 emails, but there's a breakdown of like the really key chat between the pair, and on a particular one of them, it had been like there had been a week where he basically did a blog post that was very much like, this is going to be the best year of my life, new chapter, new people, new relationships. And then like a week later, he was drunk at a nightclub and texted her saying, you're the most beautiful girl in the world, by the way. So it's like lots of kind of mixed messages.
Yeah. This point was made extremely clear when Travis won a holiday for two to Cancun via his employer. Jodi was convinced that she would be a shoo-in for this +1 on the holiday, and it is speculated that at one stage, Jodi's name was even penciled down for the ticket. However, when Travis informed her that he would be taking a woman by the name of Mimi Hall on the trip, the news absolutely crushed her. She was heartbroken and completely devastated by the thought of Travis and Mimi enjoying Mexico together, and this devastation soon turned to an apparently murderous rage. It's here that we move to the timeline of Jodi Arias and the murder of Travis Alexander.
April and May of 2008. During his final few months alive, Travis posts a series of entries on his personal blog, which will no doubt have further infuriated and perplexed Jodi Arias, who had just recently moved away from Mesa, Arizona, and started living with her grandparents. The first one, posted on Wednesday, April the 16th, titled Autosuggestion, stated the following.
This year will be the best year of my life. This is the year that will eclipse all others. I will earn more, learn more, travel more, serve more, love more, give more, and be more than all the other years of my life combined. True, other years now past have been at times magnificent, but none like this. This is a year of metamorphosis, of growth and accomplishment that at previous times was unimaginable. A year where the impossible become commonplace, and the unachievable become effortlessly achieved. Where I raise myself to heights only visited by the great men and women of this world, and, by doing so, this year will be the best year of my life.
So despite this blog post, 4 days later, he would text Jodi from a nightclub saying that she was one of the prettiest girls on the planet, and also then asked her to send him an explicit photo. He followed that up on Sunday the 18th of May with what would become his final ever entry, and this was titled, Why I Want to Marry a Gold Digger.
I realised it was time to adjust my priorities and date with marriage in mind. Not to ask someone on a date because I plan on marrying them, but to date someone to look for the possibility of marriage with them. This type of dating, to me, is like a very long job interview and can be exponentially more mentally taxing. Desperately trying to find out if my date has an axe murderer penned up inside of her, and knowing she is wondering the same thing about me.
Also in May of 2008, whilst Jodi happened to be living under their roof, the home of her grandparents was burgled by a, quote, unseen intruder. The most valuable item amongst a very small number of items that were taken from the property was a .25 caliber automatic Colt pistol. The suspect for now was never apprehended, with Jodi claiming that she slept through the burglary.
June 1st, 2008. Travis notices various messages and notifications on his Facebook account being read before he was able to see them, and therefore starts to suspect that Jodi, who was behaving in increasingly erratic ways, had been hacking into his account in order to see who he was talking to. He told some of his friends about his suspicions and told them that he subsequently asked Jodi to stay out of his life forever. This moment, together with the news that Travis was asking Mimi to Cancun, may have proven to be the final straw, as far as Jodi was concerned, and her fear of Travis being with another woman may have been greater than her fear of potentially going to jail for the rest of her life. The following day, despite already having a vehicle of her own, and despite other rental locations available much closer to home, Jodi rents a car from Budget Rent-A-Car 90 miles away in the city of Redding, California, in which she goes out of her way to acquire fuel from multiple fuel cans at many different locations before storing them in the vehicle. She does this in order to avoid needing to stop at petrol stations in the future, which will place her in a certain location at a certain time via surveillance. She then removes the license plates from the vehicle and switches off her phone. Between June 3rd and June 5th, Jodi is then believed to have dyed her hair from blonde to dark brown, and evidence later presented at trial suggests that she did this on June the 3rd.
So yeah, this one, there was obviously many other rent-a-car locations closer to home. She's gone 90 miles out of her way to do this. She's then obviously stocked up on several fuel cans full of fuel, which is actually kind of smart. Obviously full of fuel, but it's actually I think that's kind of smart in terms of her planning.
Yeah, I was about to say, in terms of her planning, some things she does I think are like so naive that she thinks she's going to get away with it. But that's actually, I don't think we've done many cases where people have thought about that side of things. The fuel side of it, I was like, oh, that's actually quite a clever move. They're taking the license plates off their car is absolutely batshit to me, because you're if a cop sees you, or it immediately makes you slightly suspicious anyway from that.
In the UK, definitely, I assume that you would be immediately pulled over if you didn't have license plates on the vehicle. I assume it's the same in America, but I suppose if they pull her over, there's no license plates on the vehicle, and there's a boot full of fuel cans. It is suspicious, but there are a lot of ways she can quickly get out of that.
Yeah, but you're travelling back with that car.
Yeah, that's true. You could also say, it's a rental. I didn't know the license plates had fallen off or whatever. And the fuel is for my lawnmower. Just a couple of ideas. Big lawnmower, sit on, ride on.
Yeah, I meant more like after the situation that's going to occur, which we're going to go into, driving back after that, you're probably going to not be in a situation.
I understand. I was thinking on the journey too. Yeah, sorry about that. So we then arrive at Wednesday, June the 4th, 2008 at approximately 1 p.m. During the afternoon, Jodi arrives unexpectedly at Travis's home in Mesa, Arizona. This was 6 days before he was due to set off for Mexico with Mimi. Jodi is not observed by neighbors or any of Travis's roommates as she enters the property. The pair then have sex with one another and also take a series of sexually explicit photos together using Travis's new Sony camera. After this, at around 5 p.m, Travis entered his bathroom and got in the shower. Jodi then began to take a series of photos of him taking this shower, many of which are of Travis with his back turned or looking to the side, one of which shows Travis staring quite sternly or vacantly directly into the camera. In the minutes that followed, and it is not precisely clear in what order, Jodi stabbed Travis a total of 27 times in the heart, neck, chest, back, shoulders, and hands. His throat was also deeply slashed from ear to ear, and he was shot in the head. His jugular vein, common carotid artery, and trachea had all been slashed during the attack, and he had nearly been decapitated in the process. And in the process of the attack, his voice box and arteries were also cut. Are you alright, mate?
Putting him off his banana, mate.
Always having a banana.
I feel sick. I've just had a banana.
So yeah, absolutely gruesome scene here, and very just unprovoked, frenzied. Numerous severe defensive injuries to Travis's hands, wrists, and legs were also inflicted, suggesting that he was trying to fight back, meaning that the gunshot wound could likely have been inflicted after the initial stabbing commenced, whilst other medical examiners suggested that Travis was already dead by the time that the gunshot occurred. Yeah, I couldn't read or find anything that suggested the gunshot was the first move, which again is quite jarring in the context of this case because, again, he's a fairly large guy. She's quite a small woman, and the wounds that are inflicted, again, depending on the order that they were delivered, are absolutely gruesome and savage.
I guess if there's defense wounds, the shot wouldn't have happened.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Travis then passed away as a result of his wounds on the floor of the shower. During the attack, 2 accidental photos were captured by Travis's camera. The first appeared to be taken as Jodi launched the attack, and it shows a slightly blurred bathroom wall and ceiling. The second photo appeared to be taken when the camera was kicked on the floor by mistake, and this photo seemed to show Travis's deceased or dying body being moved along the bloodied bathroom floor with Jodi's foot in the frame. A mere 62 seconds had passed between the 2 photos being taken, indicating that not only was this murder deeply vicious, it was also a highly frenzied one. Jodi then spent the next hour trying to clean down both the crime scene and Travis's corpse, and of the crime scene in particular, she did a very poor job on this. She then went on to delete the photographs from Travis's camera and threw it in his washing machine. No neighbors reported hearing a gunshot, and it is believed that none of Travis's roommates were present in the house at the time of the murder. Travis then no-showed an important business call with his employer that evening, which marked the first of a series of concerns to be raised. Jodi, meanwhile, drove deep out into the desert, where 6 hours after killing Travis, she turned her phone back on and left the following bizarre voicemail for Travis, attempting to cover her tracks and to create an alibi.
Midnight. Anyway, right about the time you're starting to gear up. I know Leslie called you, so I already talked to her, so you can call her back if you want, but it's not necessary. My phone died, so I wasn't getting back to anybody. And what else? Oh, and I drove 100 miles in the wrong direction. Over 100 miles, thank you very much. So yeah, remember New Mexico? It was a lot like that. Only you weren't here to prevent me from going into the 3 digits, so fun. Tell you all about that later. Also, we were talking about, when we were talking about your upcoming travels my way, I was looking at the May calendar, so I'm all confused. But Heather and I are going to see Othello on July 1st, and we would love for you to accompany us. I don't know when Team Freedom's event is, though. but it's on the list. So we could do Shakespeare, Crater Lake, and the coast. So if you can make it, if not, we'll just do the coast in Crater Lake. But let me know, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
I mean, I said it at the start. This one makes me shudder. Just as you're reading that, Ben, I felt a bit sick. It's brought me back to the Albert Fish case, because I almost fainted during that episode. But this is I don't know, something about blades and water get me. That's probably.
That Britney Spears video when she's in the bath.
I don't know.
There's a famous scene in a Nightmare on Elm Street as well, Dan, where the Freddy Krueger's claw comes up through the bath. That would probably make you feel a bit funny.
Oh God, yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. This
or Deep Blue Sea when she cuts her hand with the bit of metal and then goes into the ocean and the shark comes.
Yeah,
good film.
Great film.
Yeah,
all of that. Yeah,
but yeah, this is when doing the research. The crime scene photos are out there and very graphic. It's trying to think about in what order things were done, how the attack was launched, because the photos of him in the shower are like a really key moment of this case. It's what everyone remembers the case for, and a lot of the photos are his back is turned. It's like a box stand-up shower. I would assume that perhaps it's just then when his back is turned, that's when she's maybe approached him with the knife first. But there's also obviously a gunshot wound to the head. He's been nearly decapitated. It's a gruesome attack.
On doing a bit of research for this, I did find there's some comparisons with the photos taken and the scenes from Psycho, and people questioned whether or not that was intentional, which is interesting.
June 5th, 2008. Not long after leaving that voicemail, Jodi tops up her car using the fuel cans she had stored and begins the 10.5-hour, almost 700-mile drive to the city of West Jordan, a suburb of Salt Lake City. Here, she spends some time with a former lover and colleague at PPL, Ryan Burns, arriving a day later than she had told him she would, explaining that she got lost on the way to his home. Ryan questioned her suddenly brunette hair and also the bandages she had on her hands and fingers. Jodi claimed that she had cut herself on some glass at work and that it was nothing to worry about. The pair then attended business meetings for work before they got back to Ryan's and having a heated and extensive make-out session. The following day, Jodi started making her way back to California, calling Travis's phone several times and leaving several different voicemails along the way. It is alleged at this point that she also had access to Travis's voicemail system and would delete certain voice messages from her that she wasn't satisfied with.
So what do we think about that?
Sorry.
Because I think that's more suspicious. I mean, I'm assuming in these other voicemails, along the journey back, she's saying like, "Oh, I haven't heard from you, just checking you're okay," that type of thing, rather than just having more conversations about, "Oh, I drove 100 miles the wrong way, you wouldn't believe it, oh dear." I'm assuming it's more like sort of breadcrumby ones, so that she knows people are going to play them. But isn't it more suspicious that she's like, "Oh, I haven't heard from my friend in 2 days when I speak to them every day. Maybe I'll contact their family, friend, anything like that."
Yeah, it's odd. Yeah, it is. It's very. This is where, like I said, like before, the fuel thing, canisters seemed sensible, and then she seems to, from this point onwards, kind of not play it the way you'd expect her to play it.
Yeah, vetting her own voicemails.
Very odd.
June 7th, 2008. Upon arriving back in California, Jodi returns the rental car, where the rental clerk observes that the vehicle had travelled 2,800 miles since being rented, which is far more miles than Jodi would try to inform investigators she had driven. And the rental clerk also observes red stains in the rear of the vehicle, and the floor mats have been removed. Jodi claims that the stains were Kool-Aid.
It's very fake red, isn't it, Kool-Aid? And I imagine it is a bastard to get out.
Yeah.
But
I've never tried it.
Yeah, that's
Kool-Aid or getting it out.
Surprised me you never had Kool-Aid.
You can get loads of different flavours, can't you?
Yeah, man, you should try it, man.
Maybe I will. American friends or just friends that have tried it. Best flavour? I'm sure there are some wacky ones, aren't there? Maybe I'll do some alongside our 200th episode special thing on the website. Just have some Kool-Aid sat there.
I'll get them watching.
Yeah. Retention. Yeah.
Jodi denies that any floor mats were ever present in the vehicle. As this clerk did not suspect any foul play, the vehicle is thoroughly cleaned and then rented out to other customers.
June 9th, 2008, Travis's friends and work colleagues, including Mimi Hall, had become increasingly concerned due to his absence for several days. They made the decision to visit his residence located in East Queensborough Avenue. Here they discovered him deceased on the floor of his stand-up shower. The advanced state of decomposition indicated that he had been dead for multiple days. Significant amounts of blood were found throughout the master bathroom, including on the floors, walls and sink area, as well as in the hallway and bedroom. Travis's friends and roommate immediately called the police. I will play some of that audio for you now.
Yeah. Okay, what's going on? What? What's going on? A friend of ours is dead in his bedroom. We hadn't heard from him for a while. We think he's dead. His roommate just went in there and said there's lots of blood. I didn't go in, but I can give you the phone to someone who went in there.
Yes, please, can you?
Hello.
Hi, so what's going on?
He's dead. He's in his bedroom.
Okay.
In the shower.
Okay, how did this happen? Do you have any idea?
No, we have no idea. Everyone's been wondering about him for a few days.
She said that there was blood. So is it coming from his head? Did he cut his wrist?
It's all over the place.
Has he been threatened by anyone recently?
Yes, he has. Okay. He has an ex-girlfriend that's been bothering him and following him and slashing tires and things like that.
And do you know the ex-girlfriend's name?
Do you remember? Yeah. What's his ex-girlfriend's name? Ask Taylor.
And do you know if he's ever reported it to the police?
Her name is Jodi. I don't know if he's ever reported. Hold on. Yeah. Ask Taylor if he's ever reported Jodi to the police, like if Travis did. No, he hasn't reported anything about Jodi's behavior.
It was later established that Travis had been shot just above the right eyebrow with a .25 caliber firearm, with the bullet eventually becoming recovered from his left cheek. Investigators were also able to uncover several crucial pieces of evidence in Travis's bedroom and bathroom. A spent .25 caliber shell casing was discovered on the floor near the sink, along with a hair and a small bloody handprint located near the entrance to the bathroom hall. So there's a smoking gun and being caught red-handed here. It's
fantastic.
Two of the cliches right there.
Yeah.
The DNA on this belonged to both Travis Alexander and...
Dun, dun, dun.
Guys, leave a comment below if you've got any guesses here. And Jodi Arias. As well as this, a digital camera was found in the washing machine in the downstairs laundry room, appearing to have undergone a wash cycle. So the camera was ruined, obviously, with that, but the SD card within it was actually working completely fine. Police were successfully able to retrieve erased images depicting Jodi and Travis in sexually suggestive positions, captured around 1:40 p.m. on the 4th of June. The last photograph of Travis alive, which was him in the shower, was taken at 5:29 p.m. that same day. Subsequent images taken shortly thereafter reveal a person believed to be Travis profusely bleeding on the bathroom floor. After the news of Travis's murder was made public the following day, Jodi took to Facebook and MySpace to post multiple memorial photos of her and Travis together. She also sent flowers and a letter to his family and called the police to offer any help she could in the investigation into his death. Well, you've left a few clues there already, Jodi. Over the next month, police detective Esteban Flores took a sample of Jodi's DNA and quickly started to build a case against her. This was based on the overwhelming physical, digital and forensic evidence against Jodi, as well as all of the concerns handed over to the police about her from Travis's friends. Meanwhile, the funeral for Travis was held in a private ceremony at Olivewood Memorial Park in Riverside, California on the 21st of June.
July 15th, 2008, 7:35 a.m. 41 days after Travis Alexander was murdered, and with a case fully built against her, as Tom said, caught red-handed, smoking gun, squeaky clean camera. They now have a full case against her. Police arrested Jodi at her grandparents' house in Waireka, California, and she would go on to be extradited back to Arizona 2 months later. Whilst Jodi was being arrested and taken to her local police station, she remained silent during the 6-minute drive and didn't once question why she was being arrested, despite the Waireka police putting her in handcuffs and possessing a warrant for her arrest. Jodi is then photographed smiling for her first mugshot.
One thing she did say to police, though, Ben, was she asked if she'd be able to put on some makeup before the mugshot.
And yeah, this pose in terms of, there would be future mugshots. The smile is no longer present.
But Ben, if you ask me, I'd actually call it a smug shot.
That's fantastic. Later that day, Jodi is infamously interrogated at length by Detective Esteban Flores and his team. And obviously, Detective Flores was leading the case. Jodi's behaviour during the interrogation is quite exceptional, often going out of her way to appear innocent and caring. She basically, one of the first things she does that's strange is all of her body language before the detective even enters the room is strange. But when they start talking about Travis, she looks behind her like she says, "Oh, Matt, we should probably record this conversation." And she picks up a broken voice recorder from a table behind her and is like fixated on this voice recorder saying, "We need to record this. We need to record this." It's fascinating viewing. Jodi would regularly go off on tangents about her and Travis's relationship, her personal life, her career, her finances, her religion, with Detective Flores, who has the patience of a saint, often having to abruptly rein her back in. At no point does Jodi even acknowledge that she is a suspect, despite being confronted about Travis's murder multiple times by the detectives. She appears to be trying far too hard to appear, quote unquote, normal. And if you want a real deep dive on the interrogation, we've recommended the channel so many times before. Jim Can't Swim does an amazing dissection of this. It's like a 2-hour long a dissection of a almost 5.5 hour long interrogation. So we'll just play a small clip of that for you now.
And I can pull the maps and show them to you, and you can go over and over and over again. But I don't think you're being completely honest with me about that trip.
I honestly got lost. It's bad timing.
Were you at Travis's house on Wednesday?
Absolutely not. I was nowhere near Mesa. I was nowhere near Phoenix. I wasn't even close to him.
What if I could show you proof you were there? Will that change your mind?
I wasn't there.
You can be honest with me, Jodi.
I was not at Travis's house. I was not.
You were at Travis's house. You guys had a sexual encounter, which there's pictures. And I know you know there's pictures, because I have them. I will show them to you. Okay? So, what I'm asking you is for you to be honest with me. I know you were there.
Are you sure those pictures aren't from another time?
Positive. Absolutely positive.
The last time I had any kind of sexual contact with Travis was in April.
Remember I told you about the camera?
Mm-hmm.
That camera was damaged. Someone put it in a washing machine, ran it through a wash cycle with some clothes of Travis's, but the card's intact. Remember I told you that card was destroyed? I didn't want to tell you the truth because I wanted to make sure those photos were accurate. And we can pull deleted photos. I don't care if you delete them 6 months ago. We can pull every photo that was ever on there. Pull the little pixels together. Get the timestamps on them. Not all of them, but most of them have timestamps on them, and we can verify those timestamps.
Mm-hmm.
And I have pictures of you in Travis's bedroom with Travis, pictures of him, and it's obvious you guys are having sex. Taking photos of each other, and they're dated and time-stamped on the day he died.
Are you sure it's me? I mean, that because I was not there.
It's you.
Is that channel still posting?
I don't know for sure.
I haven't posted for 2 years.
Such a shame. But there are so many inspired by channels now, aren't they?
5.5 million subscribers. That's 66 million views. That's two I really like it. It's definitely Lazarus.
That's an amazing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
view.
And Colonel Russell Williams.
Another really good one.
Stephanie's the one that does the most amazing faces,
Yeah.
facial expressions. Me?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
mean? I feel like you guys are interrogating me.
Oh, that's so good. It wasn't until Detective Flores confirmed that his team had recovered the photos taken of Travis, as well as numerous samples of her DNA at the crime scene. Despite this overwhelming evidence, Jodi still tries to claim that it's another woman in the photos, or old photos, of the pair. She astonishingly sits with investigators for almost 5.5 hours without a lawyer present. Eventually, once cornered by her own words, she would go on to paint a very different picture, not only to police, but in a later trial. Throughout this period, Jodi offered multiple conflicting narratives regarding her participation in Travis's death. Initially, she informed the police that she was not present whatsoever in Mesa on the day of the murder and claimed that her last encounter with Travis was back in March of 2008. Subsequently, Jodi changed her story, asserting that 2 intruders had entered Travis's residence, killed him and assaulted her. But her story would once more change again 2 years later. Despite the overwhelming case against her, Jodi pleaded not guilty to the murder of Travis Alexander on September 11th, 2008. Her trial would, shockingly, not begin for another 3 years and 4 months, whilst legal representatives were assigned and jury selection was completed. The death penalty was also debated for the crime. There were also years of debate surrounding evidence submission, including many thousands of emails, text messages, social media communications between Jodi and Travis, as well as the dozens of photographs recovered at the scene. Against the advice of her lawyers, Jodi sat down with Inside Edition as well as 48 Hours to vividly recount her experiences of the pair being attacked by 2 home invaders. The case suddenly became one of the biggest trials in modern history, with viewers across America immediately convinced that something wasn't quite right in this case.
This is when I got kind of, what was his name? Scott Peterson vibes a little bit with the interviews, going ahead with the interviews, thinking it'll do your case a lot better, wouldn't it? He went ahead with the interviews despite being advised, perhaps this isn't the best thing to do. It seemed like Jodi was very keen to sit down in front of the camera. Sorry, we got Michael Peterson just joining us. How are you, Michael? It's been a while.
I'm not bad, man. I'm not bad. It's been a long...
Oh, can't tell you how much I would love to interview.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. What have you been up to?
Well, Colin Firth. Colin Firth. I can't remember his voice. I lost it.
It's so good.
I can channel him at times, so then I lost it.
It's very good.
Anything other than wow.
She was very open to, before the trial had even started, to sit down and do these interviews. And yeah, I think from watching it and seeing the photos, people, captivated the country. People were very immediately on the guilty fence here. And Jodi infamously said, "No jury is going to convict me. Why not? Because I'm innocent. You can mark my words on that. No jury will convict me."
Which is odd. It's just it doesn't sound like someone who's saying, "Look, I'm wrong. I'm wrongly being put here." It's more just like arrogance and thinking I'm going to get away with it. It doesn't come across as you feel sympathy. It's more just like a weird arrogance.
It was also like, if you can prove I did it, give me the death penalty. You won't be able to prove I did it. I did not do it. I wouldn't hurt Travis. And we'll see what she has to say about that.
Despite all of this effort to portray the home invasion angle, Jodi eventually made the decision to try and create a scenario wherein she killed Travis, but only in self-defense for fear of her own life. This was her third different recollection of events, and the public were now immediately convinced of her guilt. At the trial, Jodi brandished Travis as a sexual deviant, a domestic abuser and a paedophile in front of his horrified family and friends. The prosecution depicted Jodi as an obsessive, jealous individual who violently attacked Travis, who they described as a good man, following his efforts to end their relationship. In contrast, Jodi's team argued that Travis had exhibited violent and abusive behaviour, asserting that Jodi acted in self-defense after he suddenly lunged at her in anger. This was quite hard to believe given the photographs retrieved from the scene and the comparison of injuries sustained between Jodi and Travis. So Jodi told the story of her apparently walking in and finding Travis masturbating over some images, and him quickly trying to hide the images from her, and it was apparently a young boy just in his underwear. Obviously this is what Jodi's saying, so please take it with bags full of salt. And I don't think this is true. Obviously, it's just her trying to paint him in a different light. And then he kind of came out to her saying that he's had this attraction to young boys, but he's never acted upon it. And so that's the reason why she says she stays with him, because she's kind of trying to do it to stop him from actually pursuing this route of young children. So because she's trying to play the hero here as well, which is very Jodi. And also with the lunging incident, she says that apparently she dropped the camera on the floor, and then he got very angry, saying that a kid would hold the camera better than she would. And obviously, her being a photographer, him kind of cutting her deep there. So it's very just made up on the whim, kind of like lies. And in terms of the injury sustained, like, that's a surprising thing here. Like, she claims that she did have injuries from defending herself, but they'd already healed by the time that police were looking at her. And it's that just doesn't fit. A guy that size and a girl that size, it's like.
Well, she'd claimed it multiple times as well when going back through the history of their relationship that she would regularly be bruised and have cuts and injuries to her, but she could never kind of evidently demonstrate that being recorded. So no photos, no friends saw these bruises, no family members saw them. She didn't speak to anyone at any time about him being abusive. So yeah, as Tom said, big old bags of salt.
Yeah, and she she has quite extensive diaries as well. She keeps, and there's no mention of it whatsoever, which is kind of like, you're going to mention it in there if it's. But yeah, so during the trial, the prosecution suggested that Jodi had stolen the murder weapon from her grandparents' home and then staged a robbery, before going on to rent an attempt to anonymise a vehicle, stocking up of cans of fuel and staging various text messages and phone calls to the account for an alibi. Yeah, so in terms of timing on this, a week before this murder happened, her grandparents had a robbery happen at their house and a gun went missing. The same gun was used, killing Travis. So it's kind of, that just shows massive premeditation as well. She was supposed to arrive at her friend Ryan Burns a day before she actually ended up arriving, leaving an almost 24-hour window practically unaccounted for. On the stand, Ryan Burns said, "She's stronger than she looks," which is quite haunting when you think about the context of that. Jodi eventually took the stand for an astonishing 18-day period, providing an unnecessarily in-depth account of her life story and her alibi. During this, she turned on her own family, deeming them to abuse her as a child, and also claimed that other ex-boyfriends, but especially Travis, were physically and sexually abusive to her. A phone sex call between the pair was played to the court, and many extremely sexually graphic text messages and redacted photos were also shared, with one showing Travis as the aggressor wanted to tie Jodi to a tree in the woods and sodomise her. Dan, can you expand on that a bit more, please?
No.
You love trees.
Big fan of trees, yeah, not sodomy.
That's on me. Love trees, hate sodomy. Hi, I'm Dan Lambert.
That's good.
Meanwhile, Jodi continued to provide heavily embellished and ever-changing stories about her life and her relationships. She claimed that Travis had broken her ring finger and made it crooked forever in a fight and was made to hold it up for the jury. She said Travis reacted with the same level of violence when he saw her taking photos of him in the shower, and she had to overpower and repeatedly stab, slice and shoot him in order to save her own life. Stephen Pitt, a forensic psychiatrist who often testifies as an expert witness at various cases, made the following comments.
This woman is Casey Anthony on steroids, and the big difference is pigs will fly before this woman walks out of the courtroom. That's so American, isn't it?
Pigs gonna fly before you walk out.
I love Americans, but that's
no offense to the American. Pigs gonna fly before you walk out of this room.
Thank you, Tom. When you talk as long as she has, for as many days as she did, she is leaving a trail of crumbs for the prosecutor to just pounce on. He's going to turn her into puree, and it is not going to be pretty.
Not a pretty puree.
No, not a pretty puree whatsoever.
Not a pretty puree. But lots of breadcrumbs though.
Best thing for meatballs, and put a bit of puree in your sauce. You've got a lovely spaghetti.
Well, you need the spaghetti as well.
And the new, yes.
Yeah, you need you need the pasta. You can't just do breadcrumbs and puree tip. Then you got spaghetti. Never go to that restaurant again.
As you might have guessed, Stephen was absolutely correct. Despite multiple different experts and psychotherapists and psychologists on both sides of the argument providing conflicted statements and testimonies, including a controversial diagnosis of borderline personality disorder and PTSD, Jodi was found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder by a jury of 12 who deliberated for 15 hours. The jury element of this case also became a massive mess, with one juror, Bill Zavakos, alleged to have fallen in love with Jodi. Another juror was arrested for DUI during the trial. One of them was removed for misconduct, and the final one was removed for health reasons. Yeah, I mean, there's the trial itself. We're going to go through the aftermath of the trial and the retrials and the argument for the death penalty. But it sounded like a real mess of a trial for allowing her to speak as long as she did. Can you limit someone? Like if they just kept turning up and saying they had more to say, if they were the prime suspect for a crime, is there a legal limit on how long you can take the stand for? Because 18 days I would have been so done after a couple of days.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if she's allowed to do it in days, then that's in itself would hint that maybe you can't. But I'm sure you can't. If you were just doing it and it's literally irrelevant to everything, then it probably would come to a point where you can, as a judge, overrule them from doing it.
And yeah, I mean, them both having different experts on their on each side of the fence, which obviously you do in most cases. Todd Grande, the YouTube doctor that we quite like, he made a little quip of, because there were 3 of them. There were 2 on the defense team and 1 on the prosecution. And he said, a joke I like to remember is if you put 3 mental health professionals in the room with a suspect, you'd come out with 4 diagnoses. And he just a little smirk to the camera. So that's a nice one, Todd. Lovely bit of quip.
But you could be suffering with multiple different things. So yeah. That's not actually that wild to say.
Yep.
Sorry, Todd. Doctor.
And also, sorry, I'll pop in our Facebook group. There's a whole article, a whole nother story about this juror, Bill Zavakos, who is alleged to have fallen in love with Jodi. His story is worth a read, so I'll pop that in our Facebook group. After the conviction, it was the prosecution's responsibility to persuade the jury that the murder was cruel, heinous, or depraved, enough in order for them to conclude that Jodi qualified for the death penalty. Jodi's legal representatives, who had consistently requested to withdraw from the case, and yeah, this was an interesting note, this was due to harassment and threats that they were receiving from members of the public for defending her, but also there were moments in the trial where Jodi had asked to represent herself as well. It seemed like there was a lot of conflict between the group there. They basically said, okay, we'll only deliver our opening statements and closing arguments, which if I was being represented by them and potentially being given the death penalty, that would have fucking terrified me. They're only going to do the opening and closing. So yeah, basically they suggested as a small way to try and avoid this cruel, heinous or depraved element, they basically suggested that the adrenaline that would have been coursing through Travis's system at the time of the murder might have removed some of the pain from his death.
Wow.
Okay.
I can't see how that can...
Bad.
Prosecutor Martinez, meanwhile, presented several extremely graphic images of the deceased and the crime scene to the jury, and whilst doing this, he asked for a 2-minute silence to be observed in order to emphasize the duration that he claimed it had taken for Travis to pass away from his wounds.
Never heard of that, doing that before, but that's quite a...
Very effective,
powerful,
I would imagine.
Yeah.
So despite claims that Jodi had made in previous television interviews about preferring the death penalty if she was ever somehow found guilty, Jodi once again changed her story and changed her mind. She said the following.
Each time I said that, I meant it, but I lacked perspective. Until very recently, I could not imagine standing before you and asking you to give me life.
Jodi went on to state that she would make good use of her life by selling art and clothing from prison for domestic abuse survivors, as well as donating locks of her hair to the charity Locks of Love. And she has since done both of those things, but she basically held up a t-shirt that had a bold word survivor, and she held that up to Travis's family, which I think was a very fucking stupid move. Jodi was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, as the jury controversially deadlocked 11-1 in favour of the death penalty. The one juror who would not change their vote to in favour of the death penalty apparently received death threats of their own. The argument in moving Jodi to a life sentence was built on her being, quote, mentally unwell and the moral dilemma of executing someone in those circumstances. Upon the announcement of the verdict, Travis Alexander's family embraced each other with smiles, and meanwhile a large crowd that had gathered outside the courtroom and were very much present throughout the trial erupted into cheers and chants for justice. over the last decade and a half, and we've kind of condensed this part of the case, but there is more information out there. Again, we'll pop the references in our Facebook group. There have been sentencing retrials, numerous appeals, and a great deal of public interest in the case. The many different and lengthy trials of Jodi Arias have cost American taxpayers more than $3 million, whilst Jodi has only been forced to pay $32,000 to Travis's siblings in compensation and damages. The Supreme Court has since refused to review the case despite Jodi's appeals to them as recently as 2020. She is currently 44 years old and imprisoned at the Arizona Department of Corrections at the time of recording. And in recent years, she's gone from a maximum security wing of the prison to a medium security wing of the prison. She's also, I read, won various competitions in prison for singing and performing.
I don't think that's the reason they should let her off, though, Ben.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
I know what you're like. So that is the main crux of the case, but we're going to move on to a little bit of aftermath now.
As lengthy as the trial was, one of the other questions that came up on a regular basis was how did Travis's roommates not notice the smell or hear any kind of gunshot, fight or murder happen? The main thing I can find online, there's a massive Reddit thread about this, but the main thing I can find is that the roommates were apparently not home at the time. It was the middle of the day on a Wednesday. And in terms of the smell, they stated that it was because it was Travis's house, but he rented out 2 living spaces below, so he had 2 roommates, and it was all a group of guys, and they said that, we didn't take the best care of the house. They didn't notice the smell, and kind of that was that. You probably heard us mention all these lovely, interesting facts about Salinas, California, early in the episode. Well, a spree/serial killer called Herbert Mullin, more commonly known as the Earthquake Killer, who killed 13 men, women, and children over a period of 5 months in order to, quote, prevent a series of earthquakes, was also raised in the city of Salinas. He was the one that, do you remember in our Ed Kemper? I hate to go back to series 1 because I don't think I could bear to watch it, but Ed Kemper bullied him, gave him peanuts to keep him quiet.
Doesn't sound like bullying.
Oh.
Give me a peanut and keep him quiet.
Behaviour modified him, sorry. But it's not all bad. Salinas isn't just, places where some serial killers have lived or one-off murderers have lived. Mr. Van Partable, or Ephraim Giovanni Bravo Partable, was raised in Salinas after being born in the Philippines, and he went on to create the cartoon Johnny Bravo. Oh,
lovely stuff.
In terms of her life behind bars, there was a lot of controversy in January of 2013 when it was revealed that Jodi had been selling artwork from prison. And apparently she'd been doing this by giving artwork to her brother, who visited her regularly. He would then place the pieces of artwork on eBay. When confronted about this, he said that basically the money raised by this was not to go to any kind of charity or anything like that, but it was intended to help pay for the family's travel costs to attend the trial and to provide Jodi with better food during her time in jail.
I mean, artwork in prison, there's always an interesting thing along that anyway, isn't there, about the moral thing a bit. Or people should even be able to showcase their work, but there is definitely an underground scene for insider art, I believe it's called, for that kind of stuff. But yeah, that, again, this just morally feels a bit dodgy there.
I hope this isn't the same Jodi Arias, but I've just found her website, which is artbyjodiarias.com, which is actively selling artwork. Let me just click bio. Oh, it's her. Oh, wow. There's a recent photo of her taken November 2022. Yeah, she's got a website that actively sells artwork.
How much is it?
It's kind of $28, $30 odd, $34, $39, $28.
It's your Instagram as well.
Really?
Yeah, I remember seeing her Instagram at some point.
Yeah, and there's a written bio by herself, which is...
Interesting amount of bio here on her
very long.
Her website. Very long. And yeah, whether you opt to believe that or not, who knows?
Well, she did 18 days talking about herself in the courtroom, so it's not too surprising there. But yeah, we'll share that in the Facebook group as well, because interesting to see. But please don't buy any of the work.
Yeah,
just don't. If you really like it, maybe just take a picture on your phone. That's what Dan does. Yeah. Dan just leans against the wall in his living room. He's like, "Look, Sophie's bloody artwork. Got you the Mona Lisa here, babes."
Leans in like a pretzel.
Yeah, that's literally what I was thinking.
So yeah, loads of links for the Facebook group. If you're not already in there, it is I Could Murder a Podcast listeners and true crime discussion group. And yeah, we've got basically loads of Reddit threads. We've got the link to Travis Alexander's personal blog. I have that article for the juror, the member of the jury that apparently became infatuated with Jodi. Loads of other links. There's also, I could only find one website that stated this, but apparently her younger sister, Angela Susan Arias, got charged in 2020 for the battery of a spouse. But it's only on one website.
Charged and battery in the same sentence. But very different meaning.
Absolutely. So yeah, that was the case of Jodi Arias, the murder of Travis Alexander. We appreciate, obviously, particularly the trial element we've had to condense slightly. So again, for more information, particularly if you're interested in the interrogation, we highly recommend the Jim Can't Swim channel. But we'll also post a heck of a load of links in our Facebook group. If this case does interest people, then there are two other notable cases that are considered to be very similar, which is the 2009 murder of Dale Harrell and the 2015 murder of Ryan Carter Poston. Though both of those cases received a lot less national coverage than Jodi Arias and the Travis Alexander case, there are still a notable number of similarities.
Well, there you have it. Nice work, boys, getting through that, because like I said, I was expecting this one to be a bit murky, and it was. It is. But let me quickly, because I believe you got a naughty... I believe you got a spooky story coming up, Tom. But before we go to that part of the world, I just want to say a big thank you to our YouTube subscribers. Since we've pleaded you to give us a subscribe to our channel, our numbers in the back door have changed. We now have 60% of you are subscribed on our channel, which is amazing, because I think it used to be 50-50, wasn't it? Or something close to that. But 40% of you are not subscribed. So if you could, please just tap the button down in some ways. It really, really means a lot to us.
Thank you very much. Yes, and it is time for the weekly bit where you guys get involved. It's time for Spooky or Creepy Corner. I can't remember what it's called. Play the jingle. Welcome to Spooky Corner. Spooky Corner. This week, Spooky Corner is with Helena Drake.
This one will be good because she messaged me saying, please read my story. And I said, nah, that's Tom's.
Oh,
so she said it was
Helena
good.
Drake has been a long-term
she
listener,
has, yeah. So
yes. Long-time listener of the podcast, so thank you, Helena, for all your support over the years. And it's time to read your spooky story. Hello, you geezers. Long-time listener, first-time emailer, and I love the pod and all you guys do. Well, thank you so much.
Great opener. Love that.
Yeah, that's why I picked it. Now I have an abundance of rich, spooky stories splitting out of my memory, but I feel this one has the most danger. Ooh. We love danger. Well, we don't love it. It's, if anyone finds it interesting. The year is 2008. I was freshly 16 and had my fair share of spiritual experiences. I was at my parents' home and was hankering for a drink. I made my way to the kitchen for some cherryade with my iPod playing. My mum was cooking a Sunday roast and had all the pans bubbling away and a pressure cooker on the stove. I was stood next to the stove, opened the bottle, when all of a sudden, I felt something in that kitchen with me. I pressed pause on Hiding in Plain Sight by A Day to Remember. I mean, that's incredible that she... It is a day to remember because she's remembered that even, as well as the days. Oh, God. I don't know. Spooky story reception. I turn around and nobody's there. I begin to pour the delicious nectar and I felt a hand on my shoulder almost pulling me back. My heart began to pound as I turn again and see nobody. At this point, I poured what can only be described as a shot of cherryade into my glass, but something was telling me to leave that kitchen. So I walk out and my mother quipped, "Thought you were getting a drink." Pale-faced, I was about to explain to her what just happened when we heard it. The explosion. The shattering of glass and twanging of metal in the kitchen. We both ran in and the pressure cooker had exploded and it sprayed the entire kitchen with boiling veg, glass shards and scraps of metal. There was even part of the pressure cooker wedged in the wall.
Whoa.
That is terrifying.
Wow.
I look at where I stood a moment earlier next to the mangled hop. If I hadn't have felt that presence, the hand on my shoulder, I would have been stood there with my music on, pouring a drink. It would have exploded half a metre away from my face. Who knows the damage I would have sustained if I had stayed there. I don't know who saved me, but I'm grateful they did. The end.
That's
incredible.
That's
my
one of my
favourite
favourites
one
so far. Oh,
yeah.
copycat.
Jinx.
He just doesn't have his own stuff. He just has his own material.
thing.
Hey, come on.
I really enjoyed it, Helena. Actually,
great.
it's probably one of my favourites. Your Stephen says, I hope if you don't read this one, you at least enjoyed it. The fireman who came and shut off the gas said that if I had been stood there, I'd have got at least 3rd-degree burns, and that's if you didn't get shredded by the shrapnel first. Very reassuring from the fireman there.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you. All my love, Helena. Well, all our love, Helena. Thank you for writing in. That is an incredible story. And yes, guys, if you want to get involved, just email us at hello@icmap.co.uk with spooky stories as the subject. And yeah, if it's written as lovely as that, and it's a tale of that, it's a pleasure to read. We love getting you guys involved with that. And yeah, that was terrifying, but also, yeah, it's nice to know there's friendly ghosts out there as well.
Even molten veg would have been horrible.
Yeah, to be fair.
Hot bit of cauliflower in the face. Same year as this case as well, 2008. So it fits in perfectly.
It really does. And hopefully you guys just maybe got a pizza afterwards. Or whatever you fancy. But yes, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Thank you to all the newbies, or the oldies, or the OGs. It's a pleasure to have you. If you're not following us, why not follow, like Dan said, and leave us a review if you have the time. It'd be greatly appreciated.
Yes.
And if you just can't get enough, we're just either hitting or just hit 200 minisodes over on the website. And if you get access to that, you'll be able to access them on Spotify as well.
That is a crazy amount of content available for next to no cost whatsoever.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you buy a large coffee. If you get a coffee and a biscuit, definitely more than that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. And it's great content to have with a coffee.
Amen.
Definitely. Or a Kool-Aid.
Yes.
Kool-Aid. Oh, yeah.
I haven't forgotten. Play me in.
Damn.
Oh, God, it's almost midnight.
Oh, wow.
Benjamin Carter's cryptic clues. Everyone gather round for some clues that can be quite cryptic, but he's going to give them to you anyway. Hope you can figure them out.
Wow, what a series. Actually, I would say this has been the most interesting range of cases so far in all the series we've done. So the case for next week, or the cryptic clue for the case for next week, is the Beckham twins. The Beckham twins.
Not your worst.
No, certainly not as bad as last week.
No, that was shit.
Yeah, that's fair. I deserve that.
Poles apart, those two, yeah.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
We're not
sure thing.
Keep spreading.
But yes, guys, let us know in the comments below if you can figure out that cryptic clue. Do let us know. We do enjoy seeing what you guys guess for the cases. And yes, as we said, thank you so much for the support. It's very much appreciated. And we'll be back next week with a brand new case. And like we always say,
we say this all the time.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Poor blimey. Unless it's, wow. You pre-mix the Kool-Aid if you're going to take it in the cup. I mean, I know it wasn't Kool-Aid. Maybe look at more than one photo of a place before you declare it as bloody lovely. Because, there's that location game online, isn't there, where you have to guess where you are.
I've done well on that before.
Yeah. Don't be a juror if you're in love with the suspect, because that's a conflict of interest.
Definitely.
Big time. Yeah, big time. Guilty
Definitely.
of my affections. Bye-bye.
See you later. 2-bit.